Turn your mic on. There you go.
Don't mind.
Good morning. I want to call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Are there any comments from the board before we proceed? All right, Madam Clerk.
Item 1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation, one case pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4.
I see no one in the public who would like to comment, so we will be adjourning and going into closed session. We'll reconvene at 9 o'clock. There's way too much chit-chatting in the back of the room. I expect you all can find something to say later. Thank you. I'd like to reconvene the Board of Supervisors. If you can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would ask for a few moments of silence since we have two people leaving. I don't know how we're going to manage that, but anyway, are there any staff announcements?
I have one.
Rita?
What?
Closed session announcement.
Oh, yeah, it's a good thing that there's people here to help me through this. Madam Clerk, could you please read the results of closed session?
Report of today's closed sessions. Item 1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation, one case pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D4. There was no reportable action taken.
Don't you ever wonder what we do in closed session? Because we're always reporting there is no action taken. I can't tell you because it's closed session item.
I have an announcement. Announcements.
I'm getting to it. Are there any staff announcements on? None. Good. Thank you. I'd like to move to recognition and what?
Supervisor Mills has an announcement.
Well, it does. It's down here. It's supervisor comments at the end. Did you want to make them now, Supervisor?
No, I just have one announcement on behalf of staff.
Oh, go, please.
Folks, you are aware that we did bring in 47 cats here recently, and I'm sure that Focus has reached out and is looking for any assistance that you may be able to give them, either financial or toys, whatever you may be able to find. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. If you have a way to help them to contribute to that cause, please do so.
Very good. Okay, does anybody have any other corrections for me? All right. Let's move to recognition and acknowledgements. We're going to do Brian first.
Okay. So we're going to take this out of order. We're going to do item 3. This item is from the Administrative Office to adopt a proclamation honoring Brian Moss for his 29 years of dedicated service to the residents of Calaveras County and congratulating him on his retirement.
Brian, you have to come up here. I don't do this by myself. You know, with carpet here, you can't hear Brian clumping down the floor. You know, those of you where you always knew when Brian was coming because he really walks, I want to say heavy, but
With a purpose.
with a purpose, so then we all knew it was time to get to work because you could hear him coming. Thank you for showing up. He wanted to go to the Rock, and I told him if he wanted a retirement check, he would be here. So, whereas Brian Moss began his career at the Department of Environmental Health, currently known as Environmental Management Agency. on July 27, 1992, as a sanitarian, where he immediately demonstrated his ability and knowledge of the science of environmental health. And whereas as a result of his extensive ability and knowledge, Brian was quickly promoted to the position of environmental health specialist 2 within the Department of Environmental Health on October 3, 92. And whereas a result of his continued dedication to public service and his strong competency in this area of practice, skill, and expertise, he was quickly promoted once again to be the director of Department of Environmental Health. Whereas, in connection with the reorganization that resulted in the Department of Environmental Health, some of you are laughing, I can see that, becoming the Environmental Management Agency, Brian became the Environmental Management Administrator on October 1, 2005. That's because nobody else stepped up, so we gave it to him. And he plays the guitar. I mean, you know, how many department heads play guitars? Well, you do.
Well, yeah, I do, on occasion.
Well, you could have brought it today.
Oh, that would have been good.
Yeah. Go out singing.
Play something in the key of E flat, you know.
In addition to his duties as the Environmental Management Administrator, Brian also became the Air Policy Control Officer on October 9, 2010, because the Air Policy Control Officer retired and he couldn't find anybody else to do it, and we cut his budget, so therefore he got to do that too. Of course. And he's always so happy. I mean, how many people do you know that he's just always happy? I mean, we would cut his budget, we would question him, you know, people would argue, and he was like always happy. And it should be catchy.
Then I run home and scream.
Oh, well, we don't care about what happens after hours. Okay. During his tenure as the Environmental Management Administrator, Brian worked closely with Friends of the Calaveras Animal Services Focus. Yes! My favorite department is Animal Services. It's for those of you who don't know me. And to secure the donation of the facility used to house shelter cats, moved that facility onto county property and had it remodeled, probably without a permit. Whereas Brian was instrumental in securing... county
The lawyer
council
just
starting
fell on the
to
floor.
hyperventilate because I said that.
It was permitted.
I was just sort of, never mind. Cats, I moved to cats. So when the Butte fire came, I volunteered, and they had me do whatever in the cat house. And they said, talk to the cats. I said, well, what do you talk to cats about? I don't have a cat. Anything. So I met the cat shelter that he helped put together, and I said, well, cat, do you like my nail polish? I mean, how's it going? What's going on here? I mean, I don't know. Those of you who are cat owners, I don't know. What do you talk to your cats about? Brian happens to know what you talk to cats about. He was instrumental in securing board approval, that's a first, for the dedication of land for a new animal shelter at the government campus. And I think the board reinforced that at our last board meeting. Whereas on July 25, 2015, in recognition of his outstanding commitment to the county and vast knowledge of environmental science and other issues facing the county, he was promoted to the position of Assistant County Administrative Officer. That's where people go when they technically have outlived their prior job. And served as the county liaison with FEMA, I don't know why I said that, State of California of Emergency Services, Cal OES. Both agencies near and dear to the county's budget heart, leading the weekly multi-agency disaster team during a post-Butte fire, and served as the initial county lead on the tree mortality task force. It's not over, so why are you retiring?
I thought somebody else could like maybe do it a little bit better.
Tracy. Whereas Brian was once again recognized for his outstanding ability with respect to environmental health and water policy, went further to a reorganization and became Deputy County Administrative Officer, Solid Waste and Water Policy on July 7th. You should get a lot of jobs. Can you hold any of them?
It's kind of like the old commercial. Give it to Mikey. He'll eat anything.
Okay.
That was me.
Got it. Whereas the County of Calaveras will sincerely miss the vast institutional knowledge that Brian has gained, and he's not going to leave any of it with us, that he used to carry the team of Calaveras County through his many years of dedicated service. And whereas his dedication to excellence in public service has been continually validated through his demonstrated ability to address a multitude of complex matters of concern to county staff and the citizens of Calaveras, always responding in a timely and professional and happy manner. Now, for my colleagues say, Marita, you got to open it to public comment, you got to take a motion and do all that. Do you want to ask for public comment, Brian?
Probably not, but yes.
But I will. Is there any public comment on this item? Thank you, Mr. Segala.
It's Al Segala, Taxpayer Association. Boy, this is so delightful, but it's so sad that he's leaving.
Oh, but he's so happy.
Well, the Calaveras County Taxpayer Association, in recognition for his service to the county, would like to offer a $15 free membership to our association.
Hi, my name is Lori Giannetti, and I had the privilege of serving on the response task force with Brian after the Butte fire, and we were kind of an emotional mess, and he never was. And he always showed up, he was always available, and he answered emails and answered phone calls. And that's huge when so much is going on, so I want to thank him for his service during that time.
Thank you.
Hi, Janice Singer with Environmental Management Agency, Tracy.
And Lisa.
So we go back, way back, Brian and I, back to 1991, 92. And I just want to say that Brian has the capability to build departments, build broken things up, and build his employees up. So we're going to really miss him. But on Marita's note, you could always hear Brian coming because his boots were you always just knew his walk. And his FaceTime to Brian was face-to-face time. And he never picked up the phone. He always walked wherever he wanted to talk to people. And he's going to really be missed. So
Thank you.
thank you.
They came as
Hi. So, Brian, you have been my mentor, since I came here. I was deployed to the Butte fires, and I found this place, and I thought, oh, this is going to be a great place to work, maybe one day, someday. And I just want to let you know that your reputation goes across the whole environmental agencies across our jurisdictions. And I just want to let you know that you're very much respected throughout that community, and not only to those that community, but also to our stakeholders and our business operators as well. So I just want to thank you for your dedicated service and for being my mentor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning. I've been Brian's colleague and friend for 20-some years now, and it's been a pleasure working with him, and appreciated his humor. And something that hasn't been brought up is that Brian has a beautiful mail-order bride from Russia that's up in Idaho. And she's waiting for him to cook her. And I know that she's going to be watching this, so I just want to shout out to Rabinski. And
I don't,
You pay back for that one.
I don't want any of you accusing me of doing it. Nobody's going to talk back. Karen,
I know she's waiting patiently for you up there. I just want to say it's been great knowing you for, 20 years now, and working with you closely before I retired in the last few. And it's always been great to have him around. It makes you laugh even when times are stressful, and it's been great. We're going to miss you, Brian. Thank you.
thank you. I haven't finished, just chill. Okay.
I got something to say.
So,
Do you want to say anything,
Yeah,
Supervisor?
yeah.
Please.
You know, Brian, we should give you a whiteboard to go away with. Because anybody who knows Brian, if you had a question or you wanted to have more information, he'll take you as deep as you want to go. And he wouldn't hesitate to explain until you said, okay, I've had enough. But the whiteboard is always something that's stuck in my mind. That 2004 groundwater report that you put together, was that REMA paper? And it became a standard in the industry that everybody refers to. As we were talking, Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Basin Authority, where did they go? They came back to Brian's work in 2004 to establish baselines. He worked for 3 years on that Groundwater Basin Authority, or more than. Yeah, exactly. But then also the Eastern San Joaquin work and putting the plan together for the county and assisting us with that. And then turning around Cal Recycle on solid waste. Remember the problems that you walked into and you turned it around and got us on even keel with the state again. So you have a history of fixing things here. And I have your home phone number.
Yes, you do.
But thank you for your dedication to this county and your loyalty to the many citizens that are here and your staff that's worked for you. And I'm sure that their respect is something that will be carried forward. So.
and I'll have to agree that Brian has a history here. And Brian, I want to thank you. I've known you for a long time, and it's very difficult seeing you leave. Many of the people from the past that was here, you're the last one that's leaving, but I've always appreciated everything you've done.
Thank you, sir.
And I have one other question to the chair and county council. If we don't get a motion or a 3-2 vote on this, you can't retire, is that?
Okay, well, since you introduced it. Now therefore be it proclaimed. No. Oh.
Madam Chair, I will move this item.
And I'll second it.
Okay. Motion by Tuffanelli, second by Mills.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know how I get through these meetings.
You need a vote?
You need a
No.
vote.
Oh, I thought I had to proclaim and then.
No.
Oh, I need a vote. Do I have a vote? No?
I'll vote.
Oh, he'll vote. Oh, I'm gonna pull the board. Garamendi,
Aye.
Tuffanelli,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Callaway, I don't know. Yes. And Supervisor Stopper isn't here today, but not because of you. It's because of Kevin Wright. Okay, now therefore it proclaimed the Calaveras Board of Supervisors hereby honors and recognizes Brian Moss for his 29 years of outstanding service to the residents of the county of Calaveras and wishes him much happiness as he begins this new chapter in his life. And based on what Mr. Banner said, it's going to be fun. So it's been passed and adopted by the board of the county this 25th day of February 2020. Here. So, he's moving out of town, as y'all know.
Diane, can you take this one more, please?
Marita was still talking. I didn't want to stand in the middle.
Oh, I can come too? Oh, thank you.
Okay, ready? Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, he's moving out of town, right? So, I have him a frog plate so he doesn't forget, even though he lived across the river, his heart was really here. And this is for you to put your Porsche keys on. To Idaho, unless you want to leave it here.
And then you keep the plate and put the Porsche keys on it.
Yes. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you so much. So bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
When is your last day?
It's actually the second,
Oh, okay.
so next week.
I won't be here, but just leave some chocolate on your
All right,
desk
will
and
do.
we'll call it
Well, you got some contact information. So.
Good.
And I just want to thank all the staff and all the boards through the years and the tremendous support through the years, because it's been a whole lot of fun. And this has actually been a very difficult decision, because it's a pleasure and a lot of fun to come to work every day. It's always a challenge, and that's the best part of the job. So thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Item 2 is from the Ag Department to adopt a proclamation recognizing Kevin Wright for 13 years in the Agricultural Department, including 7 years as the Agricultural Commissioner.
Now, I've asked Supervisor Garamendi to do this because he has cows, and that's as close as any member of the board can come to being in the ag business. So
Well, I'm glad.
he's going, Kevin, you get it.
Well, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to be able to follow up on Marita's presentation, because that was amazing. And Brian, congratulations. But Kevin, come on up.
Thank you.
Stand before the maps.
Thank you, sir.
This is going to be a fun proclamation, because for those of us who think you know Kevin, when you read the proclamation, you realize, wow, there's a whole lot more to this guy than most people know. And it's my honor to be able to recognize you, Kevin.
Thank you,
And
sir.
also, you're just pretty much a good guy, so that helps out. So bear with me as I try to read this. Whereas Kevin graduated in 1969 from New York State College of Environmental Science and Forestry with a bachelor's degree in environmental science with an emphasis in forestry. And then Kevin spent 4 years in the Peace Corps between 1969 and 1972 in India, becoming fluent in Hindi. I didn't know that. Assisting with fisheries. And then Kevin continued to develop his skills in fisheries with several private fishing farms in Louisiana and California, and owned his own fish farm in Oklahoma for 12 years. Kevin furthered his education, received his master's degree from American Graduate School of International Management in 1987, and then after briefly selling almonds in the overseas market, began working for the Stanislaus County Agriculture Department in 1988, where he worked his way from summer help to melon inspector to agricultural inspector and then deputy agricultural commissioner for pesticides regulation. And then Kevin began working in 2006 as the deputy agricultural commissioner for Calaveras County, and then was appointed agricultural commissioner in 2013. And Kevin has led the agriculture department with a balanced management approach that encourages staff growth and has resulted in dedicated and stable staffing in his division. And Kevin has consistently focused on customer service and maintained an open door policy, as demonstrated by having the state's first agricultural commission department to provide regulatory pesticide oversight for cannabis cultivators. And anybody who's ever stopped by Kevin's office truly knows that door is always open, and he's always willing to stop what he's doing and talk to a rancher or a farmer. Kevin has consistently focused on community service, becoming fluent in Spanish for more effective communications, communicating pesticide regulation to Spanish-speaking customers, and serving as ad hoc member of the Fish and Game Commission for Calaveras, the Agricultural Advisory Committee, and the Hardwood Advisory Committee. And then Kevin's department has met all the state obligations during the fluctuating budgets and cycles and changes in state regulations by carefully managing the department's budget and by seeking out and taking advantage of emerging grant opportunities such as the Recovery Act of 2009 and weed abatement grants. That would be invasive species, not cannabis. So, and Kevin also effectively oversaw the development of a weights and measures laboratory that was completed under budget by using scraps from leftover construction projects throughout the county. So he literally went and cannibalized stuff and built his own lab. Kevin is a remarkable guy, and if you've ever got a chance to sit down and enjoy a beer or a conversation with this guy, he's just a good man. So I appreciate it. Madam Chair, may I call for public comment on this item? Is there any public comment? Justice, you look like it. Oh, there you go.
Sean Mack, Agriculture. I have worked with Kevin for the last 14 years. Well, I guess 13. I've been there 14. It's been a pleasure, Kevin. We have a staff of 5, and we are a family. And Kevin is the dad of our family. So he's always watching over us, taking care of us. There was only one time that I can recall that I didn't like working for Kevin, and that was when he followed me into the bathroom one time to tell me I had a phone call. So that's just kind of keep that in mind, Kev, as you go on your next adventure, that you don't follow women into the bathroom. Okay, thanks.
Word first.
Hi, Steve Ferris, Ag. Yes. Kev's been there for me for almost 14 years, like a dad, and he's not the only one that plays guitar. This guy rocks.
Justice Rasmussen, I was hired 3 years ago from Kevin. I don't think I was the first pick, but I think Kevin override the choice and brought me in, so I appreciate that. One thing about Kevin that everyone should know is he's a man of the people, a man of the industry, a man of the employees. He's always more focused and worried about, their livelihood, how he can support them the best he can, as opposed to himself. So he put others before himself, and can't appreciate that more. I would say on behalf of some of the industry, such as Young Farmers and Ranchers, Farm Bureau, appreciate how you've always supported us, gone to the meetings, talked about the pertinent info that you had to give. So thank you.
No, Kevin, I'm not going to roast you. I promise. No, all kidding aside, Kevin came on board with our Department of Agriculture many years ago as a deputy, I want to say. And, I remember talking to him and saying, eventually the Ag Commissioner will retire. What are your plans? So he didn't disappoint. He studied hard. He got through his tests, his orals, and his writtens. So then when it came time for him to step up, he stepped up and did a great job of filling those shoes. So thank you, Kevin. Really appreciate it.
The chairwoman gave me one other thing for Kevin, and I've seen this photo in his office before. But this is Kevin and his daughter sitting on a porch, barefoot and shirtless with his dog. And every time I've seen this photo, I've thought, you're a good guy. And I don't know, make sure the television cameras can get it for everybody to see. But, Madam Chair, should we comments? Supervisor Mills?
Thank you. Hey, Kevin, you've shown to not only the staff, but those with the Farm Bureau and the Young Farmers, et cetera, your accessibility and your availability. It is a very complex profession that you were involved in, and your background spoke volumes to how you were able to carry that out and to get those messages out. So as you go forward from here, hopefully you can look back and you can take a picture of those little seals around gas pumps, to remind you just all of the work that you had to do and your department had to do to maintain that within the county government. So.
So these are,
Well, Kevin, I appreciate everything that you do and all the things that you're always there. Any questions that need to be answered, anything that we come forward with one of our constituents with a problem, you're willing to meet with us. You were always there, and I appreciate that, the commitment that you've always had all of these years. And I wish you well and happy retirement.
Yeah, well, you think I'm going to let you out? I think Mr. Rasmussen said it quite well. The industry has a lot of respect for you. And I know you've been at the meetings because I've seen you there. And thank you for continuing to support the Williamson Act and to support agriculture in Calaveras County. And I don't know how we're letting you go without finding another ag commissioner. So that could be your first job in retirement. Yeah, thank you very much.
And do you have a bride in Russian waiting?
is there a motion?
So moved.
And I will second this.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 5-0. 4-0, absent. Therefore, be it proclaimed, the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors extends their appreciation to Kevin Wright for his strong and effective leadership as agricultural commissioner, and be it further proclaimed that the board wishes Kevin a long and happy retirement. Well deserved.
So I didn't write out any speech, and I really don't know what I'm going to say, but I will say a couple of things that just kind of popped in my mind. First one being is that there's only two people that I know of in administration that are appointed by the Board of Supervisors, and one of them is the County Council, and the other one is the Ag Commissioner, which is me. And so my tenure comes up every 4 years, and I was lucky enough when that happened to get reappointed. And by a few of the members that are on here, I see 1, 2, and 3 out of the 5 people that were on board are still here, and they supported me. So I thank you for that reappointment. And Rita, you were before that, but at the time you weren't there. But I know that you would have voted for me. So I got 4 out of 5, and that one who voted against me isn't here anymore. So I think that's probably speaks well of me. Other than that, it's hard to retire when you've been doing something for as long as you have in a routine. You have a good staff. But my job was varied. I had a lot of different things to do, and I couldn't have done it without the people that I had working for me. It's not my honor. It's all of our honors, because one person can't do it.
Don't go.
There's too much trivial little things that you have to remember, and you can't do it all. So you have to have a good staff, and I was lucky that I had a good staff throughout the years. And so I would like to thank my staff and the staff that came before me when I was deputy. Mary Mutz is the previous ag commissioner, all the inspectors that came through and went on to other jobs, and the ones that I have now. They've always been great, and it made me look good. So I appreciate all of that, and I appreciate the support of the industry and the support of admin and everybody else who are here today to celebrate this day with me. One last thing, and that is, why are you retiring? Well, I bought this book. Well, nowadays you don't have a book, you have a iPad, or actually this was a Kindle Light. So, and it was the brief history of time that I put on my the bedstand, and I haven't had a chance to open it up. So, everything I've been reading is just kind of like this regulation or that regulation. By the time I get home from my commute and eat supper, it's time to go to bed, and I hit the sack. I don't have time to read. So this is going to give me a little time to kind of reflect on the little bit of time that I have left. And it's something, that I think that everybody needs to do in their lives is take some time to reflect on the meaning of life, really, and what you have left, especially you guys with gray hair. So anyway, that's all I want to say. I just thank you all, and I had a wonderful time in Calaveras County.
Kevin, thank you.
Thank you. General public comment. Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard.
Julia Costello from Foothill Resources, and I'm so glad I overlapped with this presentation to those two great guys. This was very moving and just speaks a lot for the county and the people that work here, and we're going to miss them, huh? Yeah. So I'm following up on our presentation from January 28th in the public comment period where Susan Tribble talked about her great-great-grandfather and the lost Gold Hill House County Hospital Cemetery. And after this meeting, there were suggestions that the cemetery identification, to pursue that, was something that maybe could be handled by staff and wouldn't have to come back for a board agenda. But it's now been a month since we appeared to you, and we haven't heard of anything from the county, so we're here to give you an update on where we are in this process. Our firm, Foothill Resources, has obtained signed permission from the property owner, Stephen Sloan of Los Banos, to conduct archaeological research on the property to identify cemetery boundaries. We've received a proposal from the Institute for Canine Forensics to conduct the identifying survey, and that's for $3,000. And we forwarded these to Marita and I think Gary and some other folks. And by the way, Foothill Resources is donating all of our time to this project. We're a consulting firm doing history and archaeology, and we're just helping Susan because it's our county and it's a great project. There is some urgency in time limit if we're to complete the survey before the summer heat sets in because the dogs can't work when it's too hot. So the other part of that is getting the star thistle, which is covering that 9-acre parcel and the area that we think the cemetery is to get it cut. And there has been interest expressed by the Vallecito Conservation Camp, the CDF, that they would be able to do that. And also the deputy sheriff in charge of the jail crew said that his crew could also clear that. We would just need kind of permission to ask them and to go ahead. So we need approval of the investigation proposal by the Canine Forensics. We need to kind of mobilize somebody to cut the star thistle out there, and we need a commitment to have the identified boundaries then surveyed and recorded as a parcel, which is the ultimate goal, and have it put in the county's name. We have submitted a request to the agenda, to be on the agenda for the March 10th Board of Supervisors meeting, and there we'll be, if it doesn't progress, we can discuss this and answer any of your questions at that time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Susan Tribble. Good morning. I'm from Murphy's. This is also regarding the Gold Hill House County Hospital and Cemetery. Some of you might be wondering why it matters that we identify the cemetery of the 82 people who have been dead for well over 100 years. Why does it matter that we take care of this issue now, when there are many other, more important, pressing issues to resolve? It doesn't fall under the category of critical, most important, or even somewhat important. So why now? The reason is because we know about it now. I didn't find out about where my great-great-grandfather was buried until a few months ago. I found out about a county-owned cemetery named Gold Hill House Cemetery, but I had no clue where it was. With more research, with help from many people, we all now know where it sort of is. We all know where it is approximately, but not precisely. That is why we need to continue this process now. If we leave this issue at the bottom of the priorities for the county to be passed on to other supervisors as time goes on, the cemetery's location could be lost again for another century. Our civilization believes in respecting cemeteries and the people who are buried there. Those who are buried in Gold Hill House Hospital Cemetery are mostly men who came to our county to search for gold, coming here from the East Coast or other countries, searching for a better life for their families. Many of them were unsuccessful in their quest, and they fell on hard times. Others were able to open stores, hotels, or saloons, such as my great-great-grandfather, and provide a living. These were the residents of our county and the pioneers who turned the mining camps into towns. Although it was mostly indigents who were buried at the county cemetery, these men are deserving of respect in their final resting place. In conclusion, this is a fairly simple matter to take care of. Just put this on the agenda, discuss it with us, vote on the proposed cost, and be done with it. And have a sense of pride that this Board of Supervisors accomplished what many in over 100 years have not, by identifying the Gold Hill House Cemetery location and reclaiming it as our own. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there another public speaker?
Hi, good morning. My name is Danielle Maxwell. I reside in Avery. Rita, you are my district representative. This is my son, JJ. Many of you guys do know him. He works at the Calaveras County San Andreas Library. He also does Pack and Save. He attends Vallecito Transition School, the adult school now, which has been fabulous. I haven't seen any of our community leaders be there to observe it. I'd highly suggest going in there. They have done a wonderful job. JJ's last year at his senior year at Bret Harte, you know, quoting Queen Elizabeth, Anus Horopius, it was our worst year ever. The reason why I'm in this county is because I want to be in here. I love it here. JJ's school is here. He goes to accredited colleges here. I go to college here. We work here. We are productive citizens in our society. Why I'm here today. JJ's diagnosis is Vater syndrome, hydrocephalus. He has a VP shunt, epilepsy, CVI, cortical vision impairment, blindness, brain malformations, vestibular disorder, scoliosis, missing right kidney, missing right radial bone. My kid was supposed to be a vegetable. He is not. He is a productive adult citizen in this community. I am here today for equal medical quality care. We have Medi-Cal. In 17 months that I've been trying to switch my son from pediatrics to adults, We have nothing but troubles. The pharmacies will not take him on as new patients. You have a high turnover in PCPs that are even willing to take on new Medi-Cal patients. It takes 3 months to get in there, and the referral process is heinous. These staff are not educated how to write up the referral process with the correct verbiage. You could pretty much take VMRC, Valley Mountain Regional Center, and take the M out of it. In 7 years, I've never received respite. This healthcare system is not a problem or crisis, is lethal. My son was hospitalized 5 days ago, and it was misdiagnosed by your guys' county. We go to Sonora. We travel an hour away to get prescriptions because they would not take him in as a new patient. Now, I'm not talking about class 3 drugs. I'm talking about simple seizure meds that we cannot get because people don't know how to write stuff up. Awareness needs to be done and education needs to be done because my son's livelihood and many other people on the mountain is being affected by this.
Thank you for that education.
I would really like the board to take a moment and want to realize my fear of waking up to subdips with children and adults with epilepsy. The numbers are higher than infant SIDS, and to wake up to a cold body is a fear every day, and I shouldn't have to worry about that.
Thank you.
Right. No. I want you to consider your family members and friends and look into this. We should have equal quality care. Health care is not a privilege, it's a civil right.
I understand, thank you.
You do not understand when my son's been hospitalized. I'd like to provide this to the board.
Ms. Maxwell, your time's up. I will get in touch with you. Thank you.
Misdiagnosed.
Okay. Well, the next speaker.
And they prescribe you opiates during our
All right.
opiate
Okay.
crisis to stop diarrhea, but I can't get
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
And Marita, I personally messaged you. You are my rep, and I've been dismissed by you 3 times via Facebook Messenger and by your support group. So I expect
Thank you. Okay, I hear you. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please proceed.
Virginia Franklin, District 2. I've been here for 5 years on the same subject, and that is your marijuana program. I'll just refresh your memory. I made an application. Within 35 days, I rescinded it because it was such a mess, and I realized this is just another chaotic program that the county is incapable of managing. Peter Maurer refused my withdrawal. I ended up getting Josh Crabtree, the head of the marijuana eradication team, writing me a letter saying, yes, she eradicated these growers who were on her place. I went to the courts. I filed a restraining order to boot these people off my place. It was my application. I've owned this property for 40 years. I have 3 parcels. The county inadvertently encumbered other parcels of mine that had nothing to do with this. I've tried and tried and tried to remove the incorrect dates that they have at the planning department of when the grow was shut down. It was shut down within 35 days of the application. I brought all of this evidence to Ben Stopper. I'm sorry he's not here today. I've contacted Jack since the very beginning. It's been 5 years. I've come before the board a few times. I don't know how many of you remember that. So I want something done. I want somebody to either at the planning department say, oh yeah, all of your evidence is there. You did shut it down on August 5th, 2016. But there's been a refusal to do that, and then between the sheriff's department and the planning department, there was also, the guys who were out there were violent felons. And so everything is there. Why is it that nobody can move to correct the mistake? You did take that whole cannabis thing and hand it over to a cannabis bureau because these people can't handle it. They weren't doing a good job. Well, I'm one of the people that got slipped between the cracks. Diane knows because I've been to see her several times to get either on the
Thank you
agenda
for
or
your
something
co-
else.
thank
So
you.
can we do something?
Thank you for your comments. We'll look into it.
Hello, I'm Pamela Richmond, D2. I'm here to urge all of you property taxpayers to look closely, carefully at your tax bill. Do not assume it is correct. Several of us working with hundreds of taxpayers noticed anomalies, increases, backlogs in taxes. We took our concerns here and to the Board of Equalization that subsequently provided us with a narrow analysis of just 4 of our respective taxes, which, though it's taken time, has assured us our concerns about tax assessor Leslie Davis are well-founded and that the problems we see go much deeper. Remember December 10th, I believe it was, 2019, she identified 3 of us by name here and said our taxes would be increasing. In her attempts to catch up, like a student turning an assignment late, she has made further errors. I went in to pay my property taxes last week. I asked if I had any supplementals and was told that I did on a replacement HVAC system installed in the 90s. There was some going back and forth, confusion over at the payment office and the tax assessor's office, but in short, this is what was said. A told me my house was built in the 1960s. It was not. It was built in 1937. I was told that houses, quote, built in the 1960s didn't come with HVACs. This is true. I grew up in that house from the time I was 6 months old, back in the late 60s. But in the 90s, my parents, also built in the 30s, tired of chopping wood and wanting a few luxuries, put in an HVAC. In fact, the original AC is still working at my house now. Only the heating unit, which was experiencing glitches and hiccups, was changed out for a similar unit. We tried for a bigger, better one, but our electrical system cannot handle the load. As a property owner, you cannot be taxed on maintenance items like a replacement roof or a replacement HVAC. At the assessor's office, A looked at my permit and agreed there was a mistake. Mistake? It says clearly on the permit, this is not new construction or improvement, it's a replacement. But Leslie is trying to make good on a move intended to intimidate not only me and the 2 others identified at BOS on the 10th, but all of you. Property taxes are probably going up as the economy is doing better overall. Though the housing market is not exactly hot in Mountain Ranch, it's improved. But check your taxes. Ask yourself why you are getting escaped taxes before your supplementals. Ask yourself if these taxes are truly yours, if you have improved your structure or not. Ask yourself for how long and when your property was in a decline in value. Ask yourself how many supplementals you should be getting in 1 year. 1, 3, 6? Consider whether your factor base your value is correct. This is not a tax assessor who can be trusted to do her job. Thank you.
Thank you.
You really should have popcorn for this one. Good morning, Cynthia Sanchez, D2. We have owned our property within the family since 1946. We have never had an issue with our property taxes until 2012. In 2012, I had a conversation with the assessor's office concerning the unexplained reason as to my land and structure value flip-flopping. The response that I received made no sense at that time, which I just so happened to document. Therein started the problem in 2012, 8 years ago. The problem happened again in 2017, which I went in person and questioned, and got a different response. Over 2 weeks ago, I received a 2018 escape assessment reinstatement tax bill, $3,220. I set up an appointment with the tax collector the following week. In that appointment, I asked why I would be receiving an escape assessment when I hadn't even received a supplemental tax bill on the rebuild of the garage that was burnt, now located at the top of the property, which was finalized in July 2017. In addition, I have still not received a supplemental tax bill on the rebuild of the main house, which was burnt, which was finalized in July of 2018. The tax collector stated that I should have received those supplemental tax bills before receiving the escaped assessment. I asked the tax collector if I would be receiving an escape assessment for 2019. She said no. When she checked her computer, there was one. $5,566. Since I only paid the first installment on my regular tax bill prior to December 10th, 2019, add the second installment of $2,374. My total bill is $11,161, and that amount does not include my supplementals, which I still have not received. I'm sure I will be getting one for each year. That makes 4. The ramifications of the tax assessor not doing her job for 8 years is having a devastating financial burden to the taxpayers. There are 2 issues. The deep decline in value status started in 2012 in the Mountain Ranch area and Moke Hill area. 43 out of the 60 APNs submitted to BOE prove it. The other is the 7,900 transfer backlog. Terry will share just one of the numerous stories, which is creating another huge financial burden to those taxpayers. The numerous supplemental and escape tax bills now being received by the taxpayers after the assessor's tiny 5-year audit in January is indicating the proof she's not doing her job for 8 years. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Terry McBride. We're back. We took a little bit of a break. When I started this whole thing, I said something to you, and that is the ability to tax is the ability to destroy. Not knowing back then just how bad it's been for folks. However, the ability to create the taxes as the assessor without oversight or repercussions of negligence, dare I say malicious negligence, is a travesty. Sort of like, remember 2008 when the banks lent out all these loans and this type of thing? People lost their homes. That can happen on this. And the banks didn't give a damn. Well, neither does the assessor, apparently. I have a friend from your district, Gary Toffanelli, who's now paying $1,000 a month on his mortgage because Leslie Davis's office sent 4 years' worth of taxes to his mortgage company, who is, of course, going to protect its investment and write one check. Now they have to come up with $1,000 a month. How many people can do that? How many families? Imagine having children. Now you got a bill for an extra $1,000. We're not talking a couple hundred. We're talking 1,000. There is a fiduciary responsibility that Leslie Davis has, and she has failed completely. That fiduciary responsibility is to the state, the county, and also the people of this county. And she is not being held responsible. By God, me and my 2 friends are going to hold her responsible because we ain't done yet. We had a meeting. Jack Garamendi was there, and Dana Jorgensen was there. Dana Jorgensen offered her help. She stood up here and lied on public television. Go back and listen to it again. I don't care if she named my name. I don't care. I am watching friends and people with children and senior citizens being affected by these outrageous bills. Did you hear the number she gave you? Did you hear that number? The one I just said, $1,000 a month. How much overtime is that? How much time away from your family is that? And I find it really, really interesting that the values of the Butte fire area was lowered. Isn't that interesting? Didn't happen in the rest of the county. How in the hell does that work? Also, where is the paperwork that proves that there was, in fact, a computer glitch? There should be technical paperwork. We've never seen it. I'm asking again. I want a vote of no confidence. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Good morning, Board. I'll be brief. My name is Justin Bachman. I'm the Mid-State Regional Compliance Manager for the Construction Industry Force Account Council. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to ensuring state and local governments with compliance with the Public Contract Code. I'm here today to offer our resources and assistance with any construction-related procurement questions the county may come across. As a Public Works compliance organization, we are well-versed in all areas of the Public Contract Code. This includes, but is not limited to, advertising requirements, bid thresholds, force account usage, emergency declarations, project accounting procedures, and the Uniform Construction Cost Accounting Act, which the county is a participant of. Our services are free of charge to elected officials, county employees, contractors, and the general public. Our goal is to ensure transparency, legal compliance, and a level playing field for public works contractors. You can find more information about our organization as well as my contact info at our website, www.cfac.org. That's CIFAC. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to assisting the county in any way I can.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Chris Niebuhr. I'm a Calaveras County parent, businessman, taxpayer for decades. I'm here today because I'm hoping to help direct my government down a course which will enable we citizens to be economically viable and crawl out of this poverty we're sliding into. My affiliations are Knights of the Vine International Lodi Chapter. Although I own numerous properties and businesses here, most of my operations are performed in the county next door, where we have a $5 billion a year wine industry. I am a winemaker in this county and am totally stifled and suffocated by the actions of this government center, which are the complete opposite of San Joaquin County. I'm a bonded winemaker with the federal government. I'm up against a wall with the planning department. However, today I am here at the government center in order to expand my winemaking operations to a C2 location, which I have a lease on. I'm heading to the planning department and expect trouble. I am asking for everyone here to observe this closely, because social problems are like a wildfire. You've got to jump out in front of them and form a line of defense. The only way you can do that is to allow the citizens to engage in commerce. Please help. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, closing public comment. I'm getting direction from two parties. I just made a decision. Al, I'm closed public comment.
So it goes to the end of the meeting?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They'll be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion.
Okay, does anyone wish to pull an item from the consent agenda?
I need to withdraw number 8.
All right, withdraw item 8. Does anyone else from the board or staff have an item they'd like to have pulled?
Item 10, Madam Chair.
All right, we'll move item 10. And not anyone from the public? Okay, close that, bring it back to the board for a motion and a second on the consent agenda.
I'll move the remainder.
A motion by Supervisor Toffenelli, a second
Second.
by Supervisor Garamendi. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes on a 401 absent vote. Thank you. Mr. Mills, item 10.
Item 10 is from Animal Services to authorize the Board of Supervisors Chair to sign an amendment to the current contract with County Fairgrounds for lodging seized horses not to exceed $75,000.
Mr. Mills?
Yes, I understand in discussion that the 75,000 is to cover. My concern would be the original rental agreement that was put in place. Are we going to be okay to get through to the remainder of the year should some other event happen requiring the fair board or the fair to be involved, or is this sufficient to get us to that end of the year point? In other words, do we need to talk about 75,000 total, or do we need to be talking more towards 100,000? Just to understand where we're at.
Mr. Banner? Evan, thank you.
Excuse me. This 75,000 we project to
Evan,
get us.
could you just identify
Oh,
yourself
sorry,
for the record?
Evan Jacobs, Animal Services Manager. Sorry, I'm getting over the flu. This $75,000 would cover just the initial cost of the seized horses. It's not going to get us through anything further. If there was a fire or disaster or something like that, it would not cover anything more than that.
Thank you. Mr. Mills, did you have anything else you
Uh,
want
just-
to add on that?
I'm just concerned that 75,000 may not be enough or might not give us enough as a contingency here to get us to the end of the year. I'd rather see this increase to 100,000 to
Well,
have the buffer available.
We're going to be discussing the budget,
And we
and that
can add
might
it
be the
into that point.
appropriate time to bring that item up. Thank you. I see.
Lori Giannetti, 39th DAA, Calvers County Fairgrounds. The wording, our contract isn't just for seized horses. Our contract is, it could be, there's a disaster and you guys need to house people at the fairgrounds or other things, not just animals. So I'm concerned what I heard was just for seized horses, and that's not the contract. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I'm just, and we have reached the $50,000 limit, and it's not going to cover our current expenses. However, if there was some disaster, it's kind of dry out there. If there was a disaster in June, there wouldn't be anything in place.
Okay, thank you. Giannetti.
Just to clarify, that wording about it being for the seized horses, that's just the description on the agenda. Lori's absolutely right. The contract itself is a larger contract. That was just letting the board know the reason we're increasing the not to exceed amount at the moment is because of the costs.
So we do not need to modify the contract.
Well, no, that's what you're doing. You are being asked to modify the contract, but that
the
description
wording.
about the seized horses
Right.
was just for the board's
Okay.
identification.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Toffenelli, did you want to say something? No. Okay, Mr. Mills?
Go ahead, Jay.
I just wanted to express that. I appreciate the work that the fairgrounds has done to help us through this difficult time. I mean, from taking roosters to taking horses, helping out in the fire, and all the things you do. It's a very good partnership, and I'm glad we're able to fulfill our end of this financially. So thank you, Lori.
Mr. Mills?
Again, my point would only be that is this sufficient to get us to the end of the year? I don't want us to be coming back in an emergency and trying to make further adjustments. So if we want to hold off the amount that we're setting as a budget adjustment, I would be more than happy to do that. Just have this discussion about making them whole at this point, and then having a separate discussion later in the budget.
I can ask Mr. Alt, but we're going to be discussing lots of modifications during the budget update, and if that's something that the board wants to do with that time, we can adjust it. I don't know that we need to do it now, and I feel like we need to look at it in whole. Council, did you have anything you wanted to add on this?
I was just going to say, from my perspective, I think it would be prudent to go ahead and approve this contract so that the fairgrounds can be reimbursed for, services already rendered to the county. And then to the extent we need to consider, an additional, obviously we have an ongoing partnership with the fairgrounds, and I expect that there, may be additional amendments to come. But I think this is to make the fairgrounds whole for what we've already incurred.
Mr. Alt?
I agree. She said artfully what I would have hoped to have said.
Mr. Gilman?
No, I was just going to say, let's pay our bill and move on.
Okay. I don't think we're just ignoring that. I think we have another opportunity to address that at budget.
And also, I'd like to echo what Supervisor Garamendi said about Lori and her staff at the fairgrounds and what work they had done. Almost behind the scenes, unheralded. People really didn't see how much work was being done. The dangers involved with wild horses and all of the additional pieces that had to get into place to be able to handle them safely. So it's very much appreciated, even though sometimes not recognized. Thank you.
I do have a couple of questions for County Council as far as what is being discussed when we go into the budget. This item is not on the budget as far as what's being presented to us and what's in our agenda packet. It doesn't mention anything about this contract. Will we be able to discuss this and send money towards it during the budget hearing that we're about to have later on this afternoon? Would it be legal? And second, would it be better to take this item and say we want to move it into the budget hearing and then open it up at that time later on? I'm just looking at the legality of it because it's not on the agenda under that item.
So your concern is that or if I'm hearing you correctly, that maybe you're recommending that this item be tailed until after budget?
Until put in with budget, if we vote now and then it'll be in the budget packet. Because
I don't think that they could be, the items can't really be combined, but what you could do is continue this item until after you've considered budget, such that if the concern is that appropriations need to be made or things need to be moved first, and to have them in budget, then this could come afterwards, and that may alleviate that. I don't think we can't combine the contract with the budget item. It needs to be its own item. I don't know if I'm articulating.
Well, yeah, that was my question is if can we do that, because we're going to be discussing budget. This is a budget item as far as what I'm saying, because we're being asked to increase.
So again, I would not recommend combining it per se. The approval of the contract does need to be a separate item, but it could it could be moved until after the budget on the agenda.
Then can we speak about this particular contract and increasing the funds like Dennis wants to do during the budget hearing? Because it's not included in there is what I'm saying. It's not in there. We have specifically items by the CAO that are listed there in the budget.
I guess I don't see the need. I mean, I think this should just be an item. Let's do it. Let's wrap it up. If the board, and the CAO and the department feel that this unit needs additional funds for whatever purpose, then we can do that at the budget time.
Okay.
And that's.
I just had to ask a question, legal part of it.
I would respectfully ask that you move this item and that then we have a meeting with Mr. Alt and some of the other emergency services so we can really hammer out some details and set some policy regarding this contract before we move forward with another contract. If we could just take care of, I think we're $15,000 right now over the limit. And so our cash flow is an issue and we need to take care of that. And then Subsequently, we need to also sit with, OES and Mr. Alt and Animal Services and really define some roles and set some policy so moving forward we can be much better at our jobs.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Any comments from the public on this item? I'd like to bring it back to the board for a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Supervisor Garamendi,
I'll second it.
second by Supervisor Mills. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 401 absent vote. We are going to take a 5-minute recess. Thank you. I'd like to reconvene the meeting. Item 13 is...
No.
No?
We're on item 12.
I know, I'm just saying we're going to be moving what I'm going to be doing.
Oh, okay.
Moving item 13 will be moved to after item 15. So we're going to do item 12.
It's going to be, item 13 is going to be moved to after item 16.
After 16 or before? Al, did you want it after? After, okay.
13 and 17 together, please.
Okay. Fine. Madam Clerk, could you do number 12, please?
Item 12 is from Economic and Community Development to authorize the county administrative officer to execute and administer Amendment 1 to the California Complete Count Census 2020 Education and Outreach Agreement.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Board of Supervisors. How are you this morning? Kathy Galino from Calaveras County Economic and Community Development. And good news, on January 23rd, we were contacted from the state Census 2020 folks that they had an additional $53,700 available for education and outreach to all of our citizens here in Calaveras County. I sketched out a rough idea of doing a very robust media through print, radio, and ads to outreach all of our communities as well as our hard-to-count communities which are in the high country, and doing community meetings through Arnold, West Point, Mountain Ranch, as well as San Andreas, Angels Camp, and Valley Springs, Copperopolis as well. So I'm asking for your approval and authorization for our administrative officer to execute this agreement.
Any comments or questions from the board on this? Mr. Mills?
Yes, Kathy, good morning. What kind of timeline are you going to have to be able to get this outreach completed before you actually get into the physical hard count?
So March 12th is when the flyers will start going out to people for the count. The count begins April 1st and will conclude April 30th. I am poised and ready at your direction to start moving this forward very quickly as far as print production, purchasing ads, so on and so forth. So I can move very, very quickly. You'll see things within 2 weeks.
Any other questions? Any public comments on this item? Okay, bring it back to the board. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, so moved.
Motion by Supervisor
Second.
Garamendi, second by Supervisor Tuffanelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes on a 401 absent vote. Thank you.
Thank
Again,
you.
Kathy, thank you.
Okay, move to item 14.
Item 14 is from the Administrative Office to receive a presentation on the advantages and disadvantages of a centralized versus decentralized functional area of procurement and contracts, and provide policy direction to staff for same for purposes of building the framework necessary to update Chapter 3.28 of the county's purchasing ordinance.
Bonnie, did you want to just take a 1 minute?
1 minute.
Okay,
In 1 minute,
1 minute.
where's the first word go? Password. In the game password, we always used to say 1 minute. What is this? Someone told me about this. Well, I'm not laughing.
Thank you very much.
Oh, she never used to tell me that.
It'll wear thin real quick.
Yeah. Pretty soon, Dennis, get the damn lights. So Maria is flying off to Mexico. You don't announce that? You're flying off to Mexico sometime?
I don't announce the line.
The microphone's on.
Brian's mail order, Brian.
1 minute, full of information.
I guess the cat's out of the bag now, I'm sorry. Party at Maria's house. I know where it's at. I know where the spare key is too.
She pinches you.
Says welcome, so I think we're good. Yes.
Make sure you turn that microphone on as well, please.
Both of them. One on each side and the stereo. We have the mixer back here. We can do a mix. Dog ate your thumb drive.
Yeah, for anybody that's skipped that Windows 10 update, be doing it at night, please.
Yeah. Forget your printer if you don't have a
No,
printer.
I had a business that at 10 o'clock in the morning, it decided to do that update at 3:30 in the afternoon is when it finally finished. They literally shut the business down the whole day.
I was at a meeting at Umpqua Bank yesterday. They've been closed to the public for Thursday, Friday, and yesterday.
Because of the
Their
update.
computer system. They couldn't
work it.
Which Umpqua Bank in Angels County?
hear San Andreas
San Andreas. Why were you here? What were you doing?
for Community Foundation.
Brent Sewell.
Okay. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Bonnie Rich Administration. This item is a long overdue item that I am bringing forward to the board to have a very serious policy discussion with the board about the future of procurement in Calaveras County. What we are going to be, I can find my arrow here, the next slide. As the agenda item states, you're going to receive a presentation on the advantages and disadvantages of centralized versus decentralized procurement and contract. And then I'm going to ask the board to provide some policy direction for staff so that when I embark on the process of rewriting the purchasing ordinance, it is structured in a way that meets the policy direction that the board gives me today. So what this presentation is going to cover today, why are we bringing this item to the board? Why is it such an important policy decision? What is the current structure of the county purchasing division? I'm going to talk a little bit about what our total spend is for services and supplies, and who are those big spenders. I'm going to have some discussions with the board about what our weaknesses are in this area. I'm also going to highlight to the board for the board and the public, some of the major significant improvements that have been made and accomplishments that have been made since my appointment here in Calaveras County. Former life slipped out, sorry about that. We're going to briefly get into the advantages and disadvantages of centralized versus decentralized purchasing. I have a recommendation for the board to consider, but it is simply a recommendation just to start the discussion. I want to hear from the board your questions, from the public, any questions or concerns
was that we were having difficulty. Bookkeepers can go to a file and they can tell you where that piece of paper is that shows that transaction, but auditors have to show you the trail of how it got there. And I believe our auditors are tasked with an enormous amount of time wasted to try to develop that paper trail. So if there's a way that we could quantify the amount of duplication of effort that's occurring under a non-centralized system to really understand what would be the return on investment going into a centralized, I've been in both in corporate, and there are pros and cons, but the problem that we have with government is compliance. And majority of our work that we do in purchasing is compliance. So I would like to move forward and get that authority under a centralized purchasing with the understanding that, for instance, as you say with Public Works, there are things that they need to do independently, but we don't need 6 or 8 different departments purchasing reams of paper independently, because there's a lot of work that goes into doing that, which could be done in a single source. And when you start to deal in the larger quantities, all of a sudden your numbers make better sense. So that is simply my, simple statement of how I look at this. And I do agree, we need to move forward.
Mr. Chiaramonte.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Bonnie. As you know, I've spent 20 years with the University of California, and I'll never forget that when I started my career in the Office of the President, which is the center of the hub, I always wondered why the various campuses didn't do exactly what we said. And then when I moved out to the ends of the spokes to the campuses, I realized why. And it was because it wasn't always relevant to the work that we had going at that spot. My first question is, clearly we've had problems with this over time. Going back to the Butte fire. In your presentation, you said when it was investigated by the Inspector General, the reason we didn't have a policy was we were going to get Public Works stuff in order and then we were going to get ours. This has been a problem that's been sitting out there for a number of years. Why are we just getting to this now? Going through that list of risk assessments, which are pretty onerous, why is this now coming to us? And why hasn't it been here in the past?
It's just that so when I first arrived, my efforts were focused on immediately fixing those things that I knew we would be subject to immediate fines for not being in compliance. Those things are able to be fixed without modifying or amending or updating the county's purchasing ordinance. And the Office of Inspector General report, as I understand it, was relative to disaster projects. And when those folks come on the county campus, FEMA and Cal OES, they provide all the players. They get everybody in a room. And regardless of what the policies say, what our own policies say, they say, here's a list of all the things you need to do. I can't tell you why those things weren't done. But this board has corrected some of that by hiring competent staff who have corrected those deficiencies in those departments, and mainly in Public Works. And so we told the grant, and in terms of the grant, so I can't tell you. I was brought on after OIG. I can tell you that we told the grand jury that the first priority would be to fix the Public Works ordinance, and we did that. And now we're here, we want to update the purchasing ordinance. I can't speak to what's happened prior to my coming here.
You could certainly.
And I think, in all fairness, there's been a lot of change at the top, and so there's been some payoff, and that slows things down a little bit too.
Well, you can imagine my position when I sit there and see all this saying the world is falling apart around us, steps, and this is the first time we've heard about it, not the first time we've obviously heard about this, but the first time we've taken this on. Let me ask a question. What are, and I agree with the CAO that, on the budget implications and that big staff that you wanted to put there, that is a budget issue, not the policy question that we have to do right here. So what is the, how is this going to impact job order contracting? We just went through that, and I know you're talking about splitting it out. I'm having a hard time figuring out the policy question because I've got job order contracting. I've got you saying you want to build a group of people in central office, but not our biggest contractors, our biggest users of our service. So why would we build an empire over here and an empire over here? And it just seems like it's not quite cooked. Like you should be coming to us with a consensus that everybody wants it to happen this way.
So what the board needs to understand is there are two main functional areas of procurement. There's goods and services, and there's construction. The public works bidding procedures and job order contracting is all governed by a set of state laws that are separate from the laws that govern the purchase of pens and paper and fuel and the contracting of professional services or the services of consulting. Two separate worlds governed by two separate sets of state laws. So they should not be mixed. They mean different things.
I'm not so sure that there's I've been contacted by a lot of departments and there's obviously a lot of frustration around purchasing. I'm just not so sure that centralizing something makes it better. I think we just add more bureaucracy to a system. I want a system that works, and if we have a system that works, we don't have to worry about centralized, decentralized. People will go through the area with the least amount of resistance to get things done. If they can't get it done internally, that's how we end up building shadow bureaucracies. It'd be great, rather than say it's got to be A or B, for us to take a look at something that says, okay, here's a system that works. It's neither centralized or decentralized, because that lends to power one place or the other. What we need is a system that works efficiently and quickly, and everybody would be on board with that. So I'm certainly not comfortable making a choice one way or the other, because I don't think it is a choice one way or the other.
Ms. Rich, on the one that Supervisor Garamendi talked about, the system, and you mentioned it, that we paid for and are not using it.
Yes.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No,
If we use that system, if we finally implement it, assuming that's something that you and the CAO think is the correct one, could we not then decentralize
that take that ability away from them, what you're asking us to do? So currently, you would buy 100 reams of paper for the entire departments of all the counties, even though it's not under state or federal dollars you're purchasing that with. That's, I guess, the question that I have. Are you asking to take complete power away from all purchasing from those departments, whether it's state, federal, or general fund dollars? Or are you only talking about when it comes to state or federal contracts or procurement of anything that they're looking to purchase, like the elections department when they got the grant from the state for all that equipment, taking that part away from them altogether?
I'm not looking to take that away from departments, and you have to understand that they're still the experts in their needs, right? So they have to communicate, there's that high level of communication that takes place. So no, I'm not asking to take that away. And the board also needs to understand, as I pointed out earlier, there's already quite a significant amount that's delegated to departments already.
Yes. But you were talking about centralizing it, and I just wanted to get a clearer view of what you're talking about, those items under centralized purchasing. It's not everyday items, and it's going to be the larger items that have to do with state or federal dollars. Is that correct? Or is this going to be a blanket policy for all dollars spent?
Well, no, it would actually be, so no, a centralized operation is just that. It says we're going to have an office that's going to handle this for you, with the exception of these things that are delegated to you.
Okay. That was my question. And we can get into those items as it comes back to us and what actually is delegated to department heads that they're able to use general fund dollars on. Okay.
I noticed there's some department heads in here. Would you like to address this from your perspective, from your operation? No, you want us to make the decision without your input? I have no problem with that.
Be brave, Mr. Pay.
Dying on the sword for the other department heads.
It's so well spoken of, Josh.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Callaway, members of the board. My name is Joshua Pack. I'm your Director of Public Works and Transportation. I think the first thing that we want to highlight as directors is we very, very strongly support the need for a purchasing policy. I've worked similar to Bonnie in a number of agencies, both public, private, primarily in cities and counties. I also served at a time as a school board member. This is one of the only locations that I've worked that does not have a formalized purchasing policy. And the thing that the purchasing policy does is it educates and informs department heads and purchasers on the policies and procedures of what are needed in order to do it successfully. So without that, whether department heads or others have good intentions or otherwise, they may be making incorrect decisions and decisions that aren't in line with the public contract code or with state law or with the county purchasing guidelines without even knowing it. And so we very much strongly support that. I've worked in both. I've worked in decentralized. Most of the cities I've worked in range from about 50 to 100,000 people have all been decentralized, where the individual departments did it ourselves. Those worked very well. I've worked in centralized. The thing with centralized, it can work really well, but it has to be staffed. It has to be fully staffed. If it's not fully staffed, the onus and the responsibility falling on an insufficient staff is simply overwhelming.
described as the big spinners, Madam Chair. The big spinners don't have anything to say.
Judy Hawkins, Human Resources and Risk Management. So I do echo what Josh was saying, is that, you know, for the larger departments, they do have the bandwidth to be able to cover what needs to be done. But for the smaller departments, I do see, I am part of the workflow for the contracts for risk management, and I do see some contracts coming through where we have the same services in different departments with different agencies. For example, paper shredding. It is a waste of time to be paying our wages standing in front of a shredder, so we do have shredded or different agencies come and do those services, and we use many different, at least 3 or 4 different companies, where if we combine those services, we could probably get a much better deal. I, in fact, put it in my budget last year to contract with an agency, but instead I piggyback on another department. When they have them come through, we have them pick up ours also, and they charge back to us, where it's those type of things. And that's just one example. There are other examples, especially for the smaller departments, that we could use that centralized, and we could save money in those small departments.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Roll.
So I might suggest whichever option we go with the policy. We've already heard some good specific practices regardless of the policy decision. There needs to be training for departments. There needs to be standardized processes. We need, which are documented, so any of the departments can go back to the reference material and see what the process is. We need standardized forms. We need standardized reviews, regardless of where they exist. So whether it's centralized or decentralized, we've already talked through a good number of things that, if they exist or when they exist, will be able to help us make the system successful. And those are really operational things that I'll commit to you now, regardless of whether the policy is centralized or decentralized. We will fit that in the package and bring that back and identify the timelines with which those things will be implemented, so we'll have a successful system one way or the other.
Thank you. Mr. Oliver?
Doug Oliver, Chief Building Official. I don't disagree with anything that the previous department heads have said. I think there's some wisdom in all of it. I would like to speak towards the efficiency model aspect of this, and that is that for anyone to be doing something repeatedly, that they get really good at it. Smaller departments like ours, who or just ones that don't do a lot of contracting, you're going to find that we may only go out to RFP once every 3 years. We may only procure technology services once every 5 or 10 years. And that means that it's actually more time with staff, more money spent in getting caught up to speed on the process and then working through that process. Whereas, you know, a department like Public Works, who does contracts all the time, this is no sweat. It takes almost, very little time, and there's a very high degree of efficiency and effectiveness. I see the merit in a hybrid program just for that reason. Smaller departments or departments that don't do a lot of contracting could really take advantage of it and reduce cost and reduce staff time. So, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Mr. Segala, did you want to go before? Did you want him to go first?
Boy, there's a lot of information here. You did a lot of work. I wonder if maybe the board is trying to micromanage a little bit with this to decide centralized versus decentralized. Actually, a combination looks like working. I think we'd have better government if we perhaps put a group together of experts and have them work on it in a study session. It doesn't even have to involve the board. It definitely has to involve the CAO. And then also look at other counties our size, not big counties, but counties our size. What do they do? What's really working with other counties? And then after reviewing that, plus the knowledge of what's needed, I think a recommendation could be put together for the board
said before, we talk about duplication of effort, and that has to be quantified. The standardized purchasing policy procedures, everybody drifted to this hybrid. I kind of understand what that is, but at the same time, I see the values of centralized purchasing when you get to that point where you're large enough in your activity scale to make it worthwhile. But the bottom line is that we need to standardize on something. And that's what the grand jury was talking about, and I think that's where we need to focus as well, is getting something standardized in place. But I would leave it up to the staff and their expertise to figure out what is going to be the best model for them to work and still stay within the boundaries of state and federal law in regards to purchasing.
So that model might look something like a centralized operation with increased delegated authority to some of the big spenders.
You're putting words in my mouth, I understand, but, but at the same, but at the same time, I think it's important that we do have a module, automated module now. How are we using it now?
We're not.
Well, no, that's my question. How are we using it now? And if we did use it, what would be the benefits of doing that? We need to, again, quantify the value of it, of whether or not it has value before we jump off that cliff and go in that direction.
Well, some of those were discussed on a previous slide.
I understand.
I mean, tracking, just being able to track what we're buying and from whom so that we can make good business decisions about whether or not we should be putting a commodity out for bid is monumental, being able to just track expenditures.
Well, thank you for talking about tracking, because when you're making purchases, you also got to come back to when is that purchase due to arrive? How does that fit within the workflow process of a specific department? Is it there at the right time and in the quantity that they need to serve the purposes they're looking for? And sometimes the departments, everybody will do it. They'll get into a position where it's a sudden decision, a snap judgment decision, but it has a ripple effect over a lot of other things. So I just want to be sure that whatever policy we're driving to, that we take that into account. Thank you.
Does the public have anything besides Mr. Segala? Oh, you thought Mr. Segala was staff? I think we all think Mr. Segala is staff.
I'm Will Moore from Valley Springs, and I can see where this centralized store idea is good for things that are repetitive, like paper and so forth and so on. But I was working on a construction job a long time ago. I was running a cat ripping rock. Well, the central purchasing people had awarded so many ripper teeth for this job. Well, I wore that out in one day. So I'm out there ripping with a dull tooth, and I can't order a tooth on that job without going through central purchasing, and they didn't have an authorization to buy another tooth for that job number. They got all these job numbers, and some are centrally providing equipment and supplies for these different job numbers. Well, there was only so many teeth in that job number, and ripping rock with a dull tooth is wasteful anyhow.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, again, the board staff's looking for some direction. Are we going to be looking to get more information, or are we willing to at least give initial thoughts to staff so they can proceed? Mr. Garamendi.
Yeah,
subject. Mr. Garamendi?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm not so sure I'm in favor of doing a full study session on this item. This seems like an item that needs to be worked out among staff and the CAO's office and yourself. But I would, I'm looking here at state and federal sources, bold and underlined demand. So I would like to know when we're going to see this in front of the board. Is that April, you said?
Yeah, I thought we were talking about,
Okay.
and the purchasing.
So April, we'll have the policy ready to go. Okay?
I'm not in favor of a study session on this either. I think we need to
Make
get
it
it
an
done.
action.
Okay.
Okay. That's fine. 3, Mr. Mills? Yes, okay. Anything else on this item? Okay, thank you, Ms. Petrie, appreciate it. Okay, like to move to item 15.
I told him to get the lights.
Item 15 is from Human Resources to adopt a resolution authorizing changes to the position control list by adding the new classification, salary range, and job description for supervising building inspector.
We pulled item 8, authorizing the changes to 1, 2, 3. And so what is it that we're going to be doing here since you pulled the other item?
Okay, Judy Hawkins, Human Resources and Risk Director. The item before you today is authorizing changes to the position control list by adding the classification of supervising building inspector. This position is separate. The item that we pulled was changing the job description to an existing position. This is adding a classification that would supervise the building inspectors. I've worked very closely with the chief building official to add this position. He has made wonderful changes in the department, and with adding this position, it will add a consistency within the department and ensuring consistent training. In fact, I think Doug's dying to discuss this, so I would let him describe what he is trying to achieve in the department.
Thank you. Mr. Oliver.
discussion about a fire marshal or, where do we go from here separately later, I'm more than willing to entertain that discussion. I see the value in what you're trying to do, and I know that it's been difficult for some of the fire districts and their level of participation. They just don't have the bandwidth necessary to do any piece of it. Others, like Central Fire, Murphy's Fire, Ebbets Pass, they have it, and they're capable. So, you're dealing with an all-over-the-map approach is how do we support this county-wide, and yet there are districts that have very definite processes in place right now that you don't want to step over in trying to accomplish what we have as a goal as well. So I see the value in what you're trying to do. Do you feel that impact, that fiscal impact is sufficient, or do you think that this needs to morph into something a little bit different in the next budget cycle? I'm saying that, we're looking at a fiscal impact of $28,714. What would it be next year?
Well, we'll be reevaluating as we move forward. I can tell you that because of the process, let me take a step back and just say that you brought up a good point about the fire departments and each of their districts' makeups. Our goal is to support every one of them in a fashion that is standardized across the county. I've had some very good conversations with the fire chiefs. They're all interested in expanding this. I don't know how far we're going to expand it yet because I don't know the needs of each district, and I plan to be meeting with the chiefs regularly to develop that. It won't be something that happens in the next 3 months because of the legal process that's necessary to establish this. I will say that the 28,000 is essentially, let's just say, recognizing that we may have the possibility to recruit from within and train from within, which is a priority of mine to recognize the leadership skills in our own staff and try and capitalize on that before going to the outside. I will say that we'll be evaluating our inspection services across the board for this next budget cycle to determine what our staffing levels will be. Right now, we're stable, and by implementing this and slowly building on it, I don't expect a significant change in the next 6 months. But as we move forward, when we implement this fire inspection program, there will be some additional workload, clearly, and we'll need to establish that and bring it forward to your board on exactly what this means once we know what each district wants from us, because they're all going to be different.
Do you feel that you may end up having to do individual MOUs with each district
Yes.
to identify those areas?
Yes, sir.
So, okay, because that's just one more piece of the puzzle that's going to have to come into the next budget cycle. You don't think it'll get done this budget cycle?
I'm not certain. I can't make any guarantees on that, at least yet. I would hope to be able to bring back a much better picture in a study session. What I can say is that this is a small step, but it's an important step because the fire inspector position, the way it's written, it would behoove us to have that, maintain that job description and keep it there so that as we realize the full scope of any work that's necessary, we can add inspectors just like we add building inspectors when the workload increases. We still need that leadership. We still need that person there to coordinate and know when we're going to need that extra person and coordinate with me on demonstrating to your board the needs based on the workflow.
I appreciate the fire districts and your staff and you for the work that you are coordinating. This has been a long time in coming. Many fire districts years ago wouldn't talk to each other. So it's great to see that there is a level of communications now going on and that they're talking to the county and they're trying to find some common ground. To me, that's a breath of fresh air, and it will help improve our public safety. So thank you, and be sure to thank them for willing to have these sometimes tough conversations, because we're stepping into areas that oftentimes they don't want to be stepped into simply because of the turf wars that have occurred in the past. So I'm glad everybody's kind of putting their swords aside and getting into some serious conversation on it. Thank you.
I'll pass it along. Thank you.
Mr. Garamendi, did you have any?
No, ma'am. Mr. Mills asked the right question. I wish there was a way we could take some of that weight off the sled, but it just keeps coming up from the valley and adding a little bit more as it slides forward. So that's not
discussion we'd probably have in private with him. But I think your concerns are well versed. I mean, if he has the business, Mr. Oliver has the business and the revenue to support this, then I think the board is in the position of wanting to support it. And if he doesn't, then we'll be discussing that too. But I think your points are very well taken, not only for the building department, but for any department. If there's no more public comment, no staff comment, I'd like to bring it back to the board for action. All right, to adopt the resolution.
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve this resolution.
I'll second it.
Move forward, and I want to thank you, for Doug, for bringing this forward. It's been an issue for a long time, and it's been, it hasn't benefited all of our constituents when it comes to fire safety, what we've been having to deal with, because of the smaller fire departments and so forth. But it's something that it's very well needed, and I've been a proponent of it for a long time. And I think, again, with the JPA that the fire district formed, I think that's beneficial, and being able to work with the county and you and this person, when we get them on board, to get a standardized policy will be wonderful. So thank you again. And yes, I move this item.
Motion by Supervisor Toffenali, second by Supervisor Mills. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes on a 401 absent vote. Thank you. I'd like to move to item 16, and then we can take a lunch break. Madam Clerk?
Item 16 is from the Clerk of the Board of Supervisors, the appointment of applicants to serve on various committees, commissions, advisory boards, and county service areas. Today, we have 3 appointments for consideration. The first is for the Air Pollution Control Hearing Board. We have a vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2021 for a public member, and we have an application from William Cover. We have a vacancy on the Central Sierra Economic Development District for a vacancy for a term expiring 12/31/2021 for a public member alternate. We have an application from Craig Lafargue. And lastly, we have a vacancy on the Law Library Board of Trustees for a term expiring